Welcome to LG Hockey Hotline. This is V-High, as always, with Maranaconda. And yes, I am having some technical issues with my camera, so no face today. I have no idea what's going on, but it's not really that big of a loss for everybody, so is what it is. But what's going on, Moran?
Not shit, man. Week one in the books. Some surprise teams out there and others that got off to slow starts, but to be expected after week one. It's really a crapshoot when it comes to week one in LG, as we've found over the last 5 seasons here on the PlayStation side. So, we're getting running here and moving into week 2, and we'll start to see things, level out here and see who's going to rise up the board and who's going to fall down the board, who the pretenders are and who the real teams are. And here we go, already in week 2. Week 1 is in the books, and moving right on down the line.
Yeah, and the defending, we'll start right off bringing this up, the defending Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils come out the first week and are tied for their division lead again, picking up 15 points this week, going 7-1-3. I think I want to point out, as I pointed out last week, Triz did some updates to the site, and if you look at my screen real quick, you can see some of these updates that have been done with the standings. The way it looks now is amazing, and I think it's super interesting. Something that we asked for last season, and I think the season before, was now it actually shows overtime wins in the standings. So, on Pro Series, I believe it does affect the standings. I think it's 3-2-1 point system over there. Here, points are the same: two points for a win or OT win, 1 point for an OT loss, and none for a regulation loss. But super interesting to see which teams have won a lot of games in overtime and which teams have not. You can see that the Devils went to overtime 4 times this week, winning 3 of them, losing 1 of them. And as a result of that, are 4-1-1 in 1-goal games. But a lot of stuff happening this week. The Coyotes had their typical first week of the season. The Western Central, Jets, Blackhawks, Avalanche, Predators, Stars, Blues, Wild. 4 points separate all 7 of those teams. I think we can expect for the 3rd season in a row to probably see that play out for 9 straight weeks of those teams not getting much separation from each other, as it starts the same way. And then, of course, the Eastern Atlantic, you have the Buffalo Sabres on top. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals last season and lost to the Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils. So lots of stuff to talk about this week. We'll bring you the power rankings as usual, talk about some of those guys and girls who had outstanding weeks offensively to help their team, defensively, and, of course, the goaltenders. So I guess, are there any house cleaning announcements that we need to get out before we get into this?
Not that I've seen, no. I mean, there's a few just random things, but no, not really.
Right on. Well, let's get into it then. We'll start at the bottom of the division as usual and work our way up. And we have not decided which division we will do next week, but we will announce it by the end of the show, so stick around. And at some point during this broadcast, we will announce who we'll talk about next week. But let's get right into it here. The New York Rangers started off the season on a 2-7 week, but they did end the week on a 2-game win streak, which is, if you have a bad week, it's always nice to finish the week winning a couple in a row. But, the Rangers have struggled the last few seasons, come out the gates and struggle again in division play. They've got 4 points on the season for their 2 wins. They are a -7 on goals for and against. And, what's interesting to me is that they played 6 home games this week out of their 9. They hosted 6 games, and they were 1-5 in those games. With the connection issues and stuff that some people have talked about and everything, it's kind of interesting because it seems like hosting is now preferred in Club Challenge, whereas I think in Season 3 it was preferred to be the away team in Club Challenge. So let's get into the Rangers here, Mike.
That's just geared towards Club Challenge and EA and their wonderful servers that make it impossible to play in a competitive league and not lag.
Yeah, so we do have the returning owner, Escaliden here, a.k.a. JetUp, and their new GM, Flesh Eating Alien, and of course the GM Greeno over there. This team picked up a couple of solid players through bidding. One of them is a guy who was our AHL AGM last season, Doublebra. Had a rough week going 0-3 with them, but when I look at this roster, there's a few players that I really like on here. Very solid players. One of them's Ryan was here, 78. He was the AHL equivalent Norris Trophy winner last season. The Brooch had a 2-1 week for these guys, winning those last 2 games of the week. They have JT or Just Try Hard, Jissy, Jay Giroux. They picked up Illy Philly. I don't know. Did they pick up Illy Philly this weekend?
No, I don't believe so. They may. Well, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. And then Holy Coley, who had an outstanding Season 3 with the Anaheim Ducks. They've got some players on here, but struggle out of the gates. What are you seeing out of the New York Rangers?
Well, I mean, I think it's what you see in a lot of teams in week one. It's just a lack of trust with one another, and it's a lack of, familiarity. There are some guys on this team who do know each other in Double Bra and Angry Dangler. Ryan was here, so some of those guys, maybe even Jissy, may know some of those guys. I think some of them all, play together at one point or another, but they need to find a little bit of consistency here, and that comes through repetition, as we all know. When you have teams that basically are built strictly on best players on your board, and you move on down the list, you end up getting a team that's not the most solid team chemistry wise. But that's something that can be worked on, and that's something that can be remedied, and that's something that can be fixed. And looking at this Rangers team, I think they have great depth on this team. Honestly, I think they could be a lot better in the standings. Scott and I were talking, sharing our misery stories together just a couple days ago, basically, saying, Jesus, another start like this. But it's to be expected sometimes when you have new guys coming in and as big a roster turnover as we see here with the New York Rangers from last season to this season. But they have a lot of good players. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Double Bra. Very big fan. He's one of my good friends, and I think he's an outstanding player, and he's gonna find his way eventually. As soon as he finds a couple of line mates that he settles in with, guys that want to play, he's gonna take off. I have every confidence in that. And then you have a defensive pair, and Ryan was here, and Angry Dangler, who are good friends of mine, that I think are going to be very solid as well. It's good to see Dangler up in the NHL finally getting his games up in the NHL. But this team, like we said, they played a lot of close games. They were 0-3 in their 1-goal games. So, that right there, if the puck bounces the other way, they're coming out with a 5-4 week instead of a 2-7 week. So, I think the Rangers definitely have, some good players on their team. I think they could do a lot better than 2-7 coming into week 2. I think they're going to do a lot better than 2-7. I'm a big fan of Greeno as well. Greeno 1822 is playing left defense for them and took the assistant captain role this season. As well as Flesh Eating Alien coming in and giving Scott a hand, or Jet Up a hand. The book's out on him, and this early in the season, the book's out on everybody still. So, we'll see kind of where they go with their defenders. They have 7 on their roster currently, I believe. They have seven currently. So I would expect one of those guys to be moved out or moved down. As obviously we know you can't go into the week with 7 defenders. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see if they decide to move out or keep. And we'll go from there. The interesting thing here is they've got 32.25 million spent on their cap. They have 2.75 million remaining, but looking across, I'm thinking to myself, like, boy, that's a lot I don't see any, standout straight superstars. You know what I mean? Like your Schroers of the league, your Beavesies of the league, your B Bunnies of the league. The list goes on. Your PTPs, all these guys. I don't see a guy who is that well known in the league, but yet they're still right up there in cap. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. They have some room to breathe. So this is. I'm going to keep my eye on the Rangers. I think they've got the makings of a decent lineup this season, and once they get rolling, I think they'll be just fine.
Yeah, they'll definitely be making a change or two by the end of the weekend. As you said, the roster's not set to legal, so they won't be able to go into games tomorrow night with it sitting as it is. And who knows what that'll be, whether it'll be a matter of will they get rid of who they think is their weakest defenseman, or will they get rid of a guy who just doesn't fit chemistry-wise and keep someone who maybe – a little weaker overall, but plays better with one of the D partners that are there. That's something interesting to watch. But week 2 is going to be a very tough week for the Rangers. They play against the Western Central this week. So, like I was just saying, that division's been tight the last 3 seasons. Nothing changed here. And, I think that if they can go out and have a good showing this week against the West Central, that should give them a ton of confidence heading into week 3. But this is one of those weeks where they could catch, after going 2-7, they could catch some hopefully easier matchups against these teams, and maybe they sneak in 5, 6, 7 wins. But if they have a week like that, they're right back in it after 2 weeks. But it's going to be extremely tough to ask that, as the West Central teams are all very deep. So we'll see what happens with them. Let's go ahead and move on here to our 7th place team, the Carolina Hurricanes, who are your team last season that beat the Florida Panthers in the first round in a way that was talked about very frequently for the rest of the season and still continues to be mentioned. But however you want to say it, it did happen. They came up against the Buffalo Sabres and lost. They're back here this season. 6 points. They went 3-6 in their division this week and picked up their 6 points. They ended the week on a 3-game losing streak, which is tough considering they were 3-3 when that happened. So it could have been a totally different week if they just win a couple of those last 2 games. They're only a -3 on goal differential. But another interesting thing here is 0-4 at home and 3-2 away. So 4 home games, and they lost all 4 games that they hosted, which is extremely interesting to me. It's something I'll point out probably a lot this season, as it's our final season on NHL 17. We've kind of figured out the things that are issues in this game or are things that are talked about the most, and that seems to be one of them with the club challenge. So Razor is the returning owner here. He picked up B. Jackson to be his GM, who is a very solid defenseman who played on the Vancouver Canucks last season, and was helping them make a playoff push until the team kind of fell apart with 3 weeks left to go in the season, or 2 weeks left to go in the season. He comes in as GM here. They pick up Burns for Norris late in the first round of the draft. They paid, I think, like $5 million for Larkin 71, who moved back to center this season.
4.5.
4.5, so almost $5 million. $4.5 million on him. They bring in OMG Price to play in net. They still have Reddy and Reps returning back here, and TC is a solid defenseman who has played on playoff teams the last couple of seasons, one in New Jersey, and then last season with Carolina, they bring him back. They have the Kev 88 on left wing here. He had a big week going 2-1 with 9 goals. and 4 assists. So, picking up only 6 points this week, Carolina looks to be roster-wise in a little bit better shape than the Rangers do to me, as they have an outstanding defenseman as their GM. And of course, they have Reddy and Reps, who have both proven to be outstanding wingers. Reps had a struggle this week going 0-3, but very solid left winger in this league. I think that you can look for this team to probably bounce back a little bit. This is a team that seems to go most of the season without going away. So, what are you seeing here with the Carolina Hurricanes?
Well, with Carolina, I think it's definitely, they were one of those teams who, put a little bit of a run together at the end of the season to just get into the playoffs. And when they got into the playoffs, they made a little bit of noise. They turned some heads. They beat an extremely good team who everybody had as their cup favorite in the Florida Panthers. And, coming into this season, they're bringing back guys like JLM 1410, Rep 71, who's been a staple in Carolina since day one of his career. It looks as though, drafting a player like Burns for Norris in the first round is a good pickup for them. Atrial is a solid pickup for them at $6 million on their back end there. So, it'll be interesting to see if Carolina can find, a steady flow here. Larkin, of course, as we all know, has moved back to the forward ranks as he had a stint at defense last season. He's gone back up to the forward position, and he's at that $4.5 million cap hit. And then of course they have Letkis, I believe, at 7.5. So they have a couple of big ticket items here on this team, which leaves them, in a little bit of cap purgatory here, as they have to make some room to get down to a legal level as far as the salary cap goes. So it'll be interesting to see what tweaks they make to get that $250K back on their salary cap and get their roster legal here. As like I said, they have several large contracts out there. So we'll see if Carolina can pull off the same thing they did last season. They were kind of a middle of the run team last season. Not that they weren't bad. Obviously, they made the playoffs. They were a good team last season and playing in one of the toughest divisions in hockey and still managed to climb into the playoffs. So hats off to them for that. I mean, they had to win some tough-ass games last year to get into the playoffs, and there's no shortage of tough games coming up this season as well. Looking forward to the week. The Metro is going over to play that Pacific Division, so there's some tough teams over there. You have, Chicago, Dallas, Colorado, Minnesota, Nashville, St. Louis, and Winnipeg, so the list goes on and on and on as they run the gamut of that Western Pacific Conference this week, which, there's not really an easy game there. So, if they can come out of this week, maybe picking up, 10, 11 points, I think they're in great position. I think that's what they need to shoot for, is to get 10 points. If you can get 10 points coming out of the Western Pacific, you've done something right, because that is the division that just seems to kill people on a weekly basis. So, if they can make a run and get 10 points coming out of that, that's got to be a success for them moving down the road, and something that they can build off of. They just have to kind of take it one game at a time coming up this week and see if they can't, find a little bit of consistency through their lineup and get going here.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what they're able to do. Going to be a tough week for the Eastern Metropolitan, especially these teams that didn't have great starts, because you have a tough start to the season and then the following week you get 0 breaks, no easy games. So it's going to be a struggle. But like I said, this is a week where playing against a division like the West Central, if you do have a bounce back week and go over 500, you're probably going to be one of the better teams in your division record-wise for the week, because you don't expect those teams in the West Central to lose very many games, and I don't expect them to again either this week. So
Right.
we'll see how the Hurricanes bounce back.
Yeah, and they're, I mean, and it's not like they're the only ones who have to play the Pacific. Their entire division has to play them, so they've all got to go through that division, which could be good for these teams that had a rough start. If they could pick up a couple wins here or there against teams that other teams in their division lose to, then they can gain ground on them, and those are free points that you're scooping up against the Western Conference there.
For sure. But you are also going to have to keep pace with the likes of, Capitals, Penguins, Islanders, Flyers, and Devils, along with the Blue Jackets, who are all ahead of you. So trying to gain ground there is going to be huge. Luckily, it's early, so there's plenty of time left to do it. Let's move on to the sixth place team in this division, the Washington Capitals, who, didn't have the start that they were probably hoping to have this season, picking up 8 points. But they did pick up points in 5 of their 9 games. So going 3-4-2 this week, 2 overtime losses. Did pick up points in those losses, which late in the season could prove to be pretty big, especially this division in this conference. The bubble teams that were right around the playoffs going into the playoffs last season there were like 4 teams separated by 3 points, or 5 teams separated by 3 points going into that final week. So points in as many games as possible. If you lose and still grab a point, that can be huge. Washington ended the week on a win, 1-1-2 in 1-goal games. So 3 of their 4 1-goal games they lost. 2 of them they picked up points in, but those are games that could go either way. They're a -7 on their goal differential, and they are ahead of the 2 teams ahead of them in their division. They have scored more goals than them, so a little bit better offensive production than the Penguins, and the Islanders for the week just gave up more goals than they did and ended up a couple points behind. But let's take a look at this Washington Capitals roster. They did have Braden as the owner last season. He is not back. They're under new ownership there by Stay at Home D. He brings in a outstanding right winger / center in Corsi 88, who wins, I would say probably 70% of the games he plays in. Struggled out of the gates going 0-2-1 this week. And then, of course, their AGM, Odessa Steps, a.k.a. BJ, a guy that, as you can see, struggled this week, but he's still on a ridiculous contract. He keeps getting re-signed every season and is maintaining a less than $2 million contract through the 5th season of LG. So it's whoever happens to have him at the end of the year and gets him re-signed, it's a smart decision to get a defenseman at a position that is scarce to begin with. To be able to re-sign a defenseman of his stature at that price allows you to do more things with your roster. They bring in an able 7. They just made a trade today to pick up Jay Durst from Colorado for 2 third-round picks. They have King Bling, who lost in overtime twice, so picked up a couple of points, but went 0-1-2 on the week. They have a guy that I know you're a huge fan of, Moran and LaPlante, 94. They brought in Nick K12 on right D. They picked up RV Clutch from Minnesota. They have Sabier, Semple, 19. They've got some really good players on this roster. And, this is a team that I expect to be competing for one of those top 3 spots in this division by the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have to agree with that. I love the way that this roster is shaken out for Washington. Like you said, their forward group looks great. The one thing that I notice out of this forward group is that there are a lot of guys who, and there's a few here that definitely don't fall into this category, and don't get me wrong, but I see a lot of guys who are kind of, me players, for lack of a better term. Whereas they're individuals. They're not team guys, and that's from past experience. Now, if those guys decide to be team guys, look the hell out, because this Washington team could be extremely dangerous at that point. And that's not a knock on any of these guys. It's just, you have guys who are team guys, and you have guys that aren't team guys, and I see a lot of guys that aren't quite team guys, but that's not saying that they can't be. But that's just something that stands out to me right out of the gates. But when you look at this roster, I mean, it's good player after good player after good player after good player. RV Clutch is a guy that I really like in this league. I think he's got, massive amounts of talent. He can straight put the puck in the net. And I've seen him play games where he's moving the puck and he's getting his teammates involved. And those games that I've seen him play like that, I'm like, my God, this guy could be a top player in this league. And then you see other games where he kind of tries to dangle too much and tries to walk the entire team instead of moving the puck to his teammates. But outstanding player in RV Clutch, and you just right on down this list. It's good player after good player. Like you said, I'm a big fan of LaPlante. I like his style. He's a very good 200-foot player. And then you look at their back end. I mean, stay at home D, shut down D man. And BJ or Odessa Steps, at that $1.75 million contract, which is a joke. You got a solid, super solid D man there. Actually, a super good D man there at a dirt cheap price. So, bringing in Jay Durst, we'll see who the odd man out here is. As once again, we come across a team that has 7 defensemen currently on their roster. So, something's going to change. Who knows what or where or when or why. But, they have a little bit of cap room here as well. Looking at this team and seeing some of these players that are on this team, I look at the cap and I see they have $4 million left. And I ask myself, how the hell is that possible? That's how good I think this roster is. So I definitely look for Washington to step it up a notch here this week. And, take it to this Western Pacific division and get out there and get more than 3 wins this week. They did have a couple OT losses, which allowed them to get some more points and get up to the 8-point level this week. I would look for them to come out and compete with this Western Pacific this week and really look to get their team chemistry going and get some lines firing there. Get some guys playing together, playing the team game. And if they get that done, look out for this Washington Capitals team.
Yeah, and just to go back to RV Clutch for a minute, he's a guy that doesn't pass that often, not as often as you would like to. But honestly, there are very few, if any, that are better passers in the game than him. Mm-hmm. When he decides to pass, it almost 100% of the time ends up in the back of the net from somebody else's stick. So if he can bring that to this team, just coming in, he played in Minnesota week 1, played with Knight 91 and Voltep. Those guys all got moved out, I believe. If he can come into this Washington Capitals team with just a new environment and bring that team game to it, he's a guy who has the ability to be in your top 15 players, top 20 players in the league, no doubt in my mind. So we'll see how that works out for the Capitals, making a couple of deals. We'll see what they do at defense. That'll all happen within the next 24 hours, less than 24 hours actually, as we'll be playing games at this time tomorrow. So let's move on to our 5th place team in this Eastern Metro Division, the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Penguins come in with 10 points. They went 5-4 on the week, which is a solid first week, just above 500. No OT wins, no OT losses. Everything they did was in regulation. They're 3-0 in 1-goal games, which is a really, really important statistic. As you watch a lot of these good teams, their 1-goal game records tend to be extremely lopsided. So, starting off 3-0, winning 3 close games is a good job for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And, of course, Tuslik, who's back as owner there. Let's take a look at this roster. And, this is a team that had last season B. Bunny on right wing, who was third leading point getter in the league. He was second most of the season behind GB. And then the final week, Penguins hockey jumped him by, I think, 1 point maybe. But they Tuslik back. He's playing center. I've got your 6 is his GM this season. They picked up a Rogue Pineapple. They brought Big Lammers back in net, who we all know is a very good goalie, and then brought in Broadway CJ, who is another guy who can play extremely well in net. I've watched a few of his streams lately. They have Carlson MVP returning on left wing. This guy is another guy who, when he plays the team game, is one of the top players in this league. He went 3-0 this week, picking up 9 goals and 6 assists for 15 points. I think that this roster, is an interesting roster to me. They've got it built several ways. It feels like it's a bit top heavy, honestly, but they bring in a couple of guys in Riney and scoring aces who had solid seasons last season, especially Riney with St. Louis. Had a very good season. They have GMAC 90 on right D. What do you see out of the Pittsburgh Penguins? It's definitely a completely different roster than it was last season.
That's for sure. It's definitely a big roster turnover here. Although they do have a guy like Carlson MVP coming back, who went and had himself a stellar week for him this week. They have a lot of new faces here, but a lot of solid mid-tier guys. And if you have a team of solid mid-tier guys, you can get consistency out of them. You can get them to all buy in and play a good season. We'll see how that kind of rolls here. I think it's quite hilarious how Too Slick grabs a GM with the name of "I got your 6." That's just funny to me for some reason. As Too Slick seems to ruffle some feathers across the league, so he needs somebody to get his back, which is great. I love it. But coming into the week, they finish, right smack dab in the center of their division. So, obviously they outplayed teams in their division this week because everybody played their own division. They came out with 5 wins. This is a team that I think could definitely, obviously they have to make a move. They have they're 1.1 or 1.25 over the cap right now, and they have 7 defensemen on their roster. So this is another team that's currently sitting, in a spot to where they're going to have to move a player out or move a player down, or move a player down and bring a different guy up. Who knows what they're going to do, but obviously there's a little bit of shuffling that needs to go on. But Too Slick's got himself another a solid team here. With some guys like Booyah coming in at the $7 million ticket. That's a big ticket item right there in a right winger for $7 million. So we'll kind of see when you go out and spend $7 million on a guy and he only plays 2 games in a week. That is a little bit troublesome, but who knows? Something may have come up there. I like the way this team looks. Like I said, I think they're built very strong. With some they have a lot of good diversity on their team. So, we'll kind of see, Big Lammers in the net for them and Broadway CJ. So this will be a team to keep an eye on, see if they can kind of push their way up towards those top 3-4 teams of this division, as they're chasing down teams like the surprise of the week in the New York Islanders, who had themselves a good week. Philadelphia Flyers are above them, along with the New Jersey Devils and Columbus Blue Jackets. So there's a lot of good teams sitting in front of them that they have to catch and keep up with. Can they do it? Remains to be seen. I like this team. We'll kind of see what Too Slick does here to get his roster to where it needs to be moving forward. We'll see what Pittsburgh does here, but I like the team. They're kind of, like I said, this is another one of those teams that, maybe Booyah. I don't know much about him. He must be an Xbox guy with a contract of $7 million. I'm assuming that he is, or maybe he's just a Pro Series guy. As I only see, he was on St. Louis last year, so I would assume he is probably an Xbox guy that came over. He seems like the only large name on their team. So we'll see what they can do moving forward into the season here.
Yeah, and I do want to make a correction because I am blind. Carlson MVP had 9.6 goals, 3 assists. I read the line backwards. Just wanted to correct myself there or allow somebody else to correct me for me. So let's move on here to the New York Islanders, who we talked about last week a bit about having the goalie GM, goalie owner tandem going and sitting in the top half of their division after 1 week with 11 points, sitting only 4 points behind your um, division tie. And, tied for third with the Philadelphia Flyers, except that they had um, I think it was the goal differential that was the tiebreaker there. But the New York Islanders coming in at 11 points, 5-3-1 on the week. Outstanding week to start the season there. Division play, picking up 5 wins. Um, I think this is a team, like I said, this is why we play the games. Everybody was talking about the goalie owner, GM, deal here, and if it was a waste of a contract and teams can't win that way, and yada yada yada. Who knows how it'll turn out the rest of the season? But good start here for the boys in on the island. So I already said they have Caesar returning in net for them, and or I guess Schwartz 74 now, and then brought in Sack Diesel to be his GM, and then one of their draft picks, Vega Ridge, who was drafted at the 5 overall position, went 2-1 on the week. He had 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. Chi-Town Menace is a guy that they picked up. They spent a lot of money on Fu Mancheesy. He went 3-0 on the week with 4 goals, or I'm sorry, 4 points, 4 assists, and now I can't read because it's in my head. Um, they brought in Killer Cookie, who's a guy who played defense in Anaheim the last couple of seasons. They brought in LeBlanc, and then they spent, of course, a boatload of money, almost a third of their salary cap, to bring in PTP and RFA this season. He went 1-1-1 on the week, struggled a bit. I don't know. I haven't looked to see who he played with this past week, but if they went 5-3-1 with PTP struggling, I imagine first league game not on defense in 2 seasons. He's getting back into it here. I don't expect that to be an issue. Skills pay bills, went 0-3 to start last season, and we all know how that turned out the rest of the season for him, as he had an outstanding season as the number 1 overall pick. So we'll see what happens with PTP here. They also have the blind ref, who is very solid left winger, went 2-1 on the week. But what do you think about the Islanders?
Well, first of all, golf clap. I got to give them a golf clap, man. They came out of the gates here, like you said, everybody, against them, so they kind of took an us against the world mentality here in week 1, and they came out sitting in a nice spot. My hat's off to them, and that's playing their own division. They went 5-3-1 on the week, and like you said, when you got a player of PTP's caliber and he goes 1-1-1 on the week, then you might be, you could have a damn good team sitting here. You never know. I mean, Vega Ridge was a highly touted prospect coming into the draft, went number, 5 overall or 4?
5
overall. So, that's 2 extremely solid centers right there on that team. So, this is, like you said, $8 million on Fu Mancheesy, who won the Norris Trophy not just 2 seasons ago. Killer Cookie, who was a perennial Anaheim Duck, coming in and playing for them. They have a lot of interesting players over here. This is a strangely built roster, but obviously it worked for week 1 here. We'll see if they can sustain this type of play. If they sustain this, I mean, they got 11 points this week, so that's 1 shy of a lot of teams' weekly goal of 12. So they did a lot of things right this week. They came out, they won 5 games, they picked up a point in another, and they only dropped 3. So that's a hell of a job by Caesar and Sack, and also Vega Ridge. They did a great job coming out of the gates here, and hats off to you, boys. That's a great job. We'll see if PTP can pick it up here. Like I said, that's one of the top centers. I remember he went for, I believe, $12 million when he went into AHL bidding 3 seasons ago, only to be brought up and made GM by Scoots over in Chicago.
That was Piper.
Or that was Piper, yeah, my bad. But anyway, PTP is a very solid player here, going for $10.5 million, switching back to the forward ranks for the New York Islanders. So if he can get rolling, look out for this team to make some noise.
For sure. So
I don't know why I always get those two mixed up. It's got to be the P's.
Yeah, too many P's. So yeah, as you can see here on the draft list, Vega Ridge was 5 overall to them, and they also had. I thought they had another high pick. I guess they didn't. But this team, the way it worked out this week, getting your $8.5 million D-man Fu Mancheesy to go 3-0. Having an above 500 5-3-1 week, 4 points off the lead, with your best player having a mediocre at best week, getting half the points available to him. Look for good things for this team. And one of the things I'll say is I would expect PTP to probably have a decent week this week for this team against his old division. He played in the West Central the past 2 seasons. He ought to be able to help these guys out on his team, letting them know how those teams play. So, we'll see what happens this week with the Islanders. Let's move on here to the number 3 team in this division, the Philadelphia Flyers, who also have 11 points to start the season. They ended the week on a 2-game losing streak. They were 1-2-1 in 1-goal games. And by the way, you're now starting to get into these teams that had better home records and are up there in the standings in their division. It kind of worked out that way. The Philadelphia Flyers, under new ownership this season, Checkmate leaves, and the GM from last season, Downey, moves up to owner, brings in LOL at center, who was GM and then replaced the ownership in Minnesota about midway through the season. He comes into GM this team. They bring Saucy back. Bringing Saucy back. He goes 2-1 on the week, picks up 8 points. They've got Fooch back on left D, brought in a guy in Fruiter. They have Gore 71, Jones in net. He struggled this week going 1-3-1, but we all know he's a solid goaltender. They brought in Polgs on left wing. They have Rick Chell, who is very solid and had a very good rookie season last season. What happened now?
I was looking at your pictures of the hot
tub. Yeah, what's up? Got a hot tub in the garage, baby.
Jay's comments.
Yeah, that's because he thought it was in my living room. And then they brought back Shroom Smoke, who I guess I should call him Shroom Snake, who signed up at center and then changed last second to back to right defense before bidding started. They bring in Shea Nesta at center, Scotian at D. I think this team, Schwartz moved to left D and they picked him up. I think this team is, it's about 50-50 for returning players and whatnot, but I think this team is another one that's going to be good again, just like they were last season. Downey proved that he can help run a really good team. Now he's totally in control here of this team, and started off having a solid first week.
For sure. Downey taking over in Philadelphia and, finally getting ownership of a team. And, here they are sitting at 5-3-1 on the week. This is another team that I think has a very strong lineup top to bottom here. There's a lot of extremely talented players on this team when you go, like you said, with John Bree, Saucy, Gore 71, JJ Loops, Downey, I mean, they've got a lot of good players on this team, and Shroom Smoke, a guy who only played 2 games this week. So, they have Jonesy in net and Off-Road in net. So, this team is definitely got some firepower. As just at first glance you can see, there's a lot of orange and red. As we move up this list of teams, the more these rosters are filled out in orange and red for their players, and obviously the better they get. A player like Rick Chell goes out and has an outstanding week for them. So I think we'll see how Downey does running a team here. I'm not sure if he's run a team before in LG. I know he's been GM obviously last season, but not sure if he's actually been an owner. So far so good for Downey. We'll see how this team kind of progresses through the season. They were an outstanding team last season, and just missed out on making a good solid run to the finals. So look for this team to make some noise for sure with that defensive core that they've got.
Yeah, I think Downey and ownership finally getting his chance is big, because I think he deserved it. He proved it last season that as GM that he can get it done. And, it was one of those things that I said during the playoffs last season, why I don't like the current playoff format is the divisional playoffs, because, Philly and New Jersey met in round 1 as the second and third seeds in their division. And that should have been at least a second round, if not a conference final type matchup.
Right.
And I think this team will be capable of that kind of stature again this season in the Eastern Conference. I think they'll be one of the better teams, and started off with a good week. So they're on their way to doing that, though. Like we said, it is a long season and it's just getting started. So, hats off to the Flyers for having a solid week, but it wasn't the best in their division. There are 2 teams sitting at the top of this division tied with each other. We'll go with the number 2 team in the standings right now, but number 1 team from last season, New Jersey Devils. This team, like I said last week, I think is better than they were last season, and last season they won the Cup. So, we'll see what the Devils are able to do. They started off going 7-1-1. Odie, of course, returning as owner here, bringing back Tendy as his GM. They went and picked up B Bunny on right D, brought in Foot, and of course they have JD Hegel coming back, who was undefeated this week with 26 points. They had that's not true, Ryan. You don't have to look. They brought
Wait, what?
They have Lab Rat back at center. Rhino, who went into RFA as he had a $500K contract as a goaltender signed for 2 seasons. He went into RFA as a left winger, and he went for I think $7.5 million. He goes 3-0 on the week, picking up 4 points, 1 goal, 3 assists. But the part that matters is he won all of his games with his line. Trio Big Mac is a guy that when you've got 2 right D on your team, one of them's Odie and one of them's Trio Big Mac, you've got two incredible defensive pairings, regardless of who those left D are that play with them, though the left D on this team aren't that weak either. So, and then, of course, B Bunny, they're 3 right Ds are all outstanding players. What do you see from this returning Cup champ New Jersey Devils team that's probably going to be a pain in everybody's ass on a daily basis?
I see exactly that. A team that's built to win the Cup again, flat out. You have a returning owner and right defenseman in Odie, who's one of the best defenders in the league, and in the conversation to be one of the best defenders in the league. You have Flapjack coming back as assistant captain and Tendy coming back as the GM. B Bunny making the switch to right defense, and I'm sure once he gets his bearings back there on defense, he's going to continue to do what B Bunny does. DTA today, Ducks fan, Foot, J.D. Hegel came in and had an outstanding rookie season last year. Jay Carlos coming in and playing some net for him. He's a guy who's made the transition back to goaltender, which is what he was in seasons 1 and 2, I believe, and then switched out for a couple seasons when he was with Winnipeg there. But he's found himself back in the net, back comfortable, goes 3-0, 3-0-1 this week. Labrat had himself a good week. Rhino coming back to forward and back to the league for this summer as a skater, goes 3-0 on the week. The Curtis Joseph, the Kaner 88. Obviously my favorite defender in the league, Trio Big Mac, and I finally got to play some games with him the other day. Trio had a blast, dude. That was a lot of fun. And then what is that? The 1994. What's his Tucker 1994. Left defender goes 2-0 for them this week, and then Nav 61 goes 3-0 for them this week. So this is a team that's poised to make another deep run into the playoffs and contend for that cup coming out of the Eastern Conference. That's for sure. 7-1-1 on the week, and I'd have to say that fell short of expectations for this team. I think they go out there and expect to get the full 9-0 every week they play, and they've got the team to do it. We'll kind of see if they hold this team together as it sits right now. I think they've got a lot of good players here, because they are the defending Cup champions, got to give a little love to the New Jersey Devils.
Yep, for sure. I think the Devils will be there all season, whether they make moves or not on this roster. They built a solid base to start from, and they went out and proved it week 1, losing only 1 game in regulation, the other in overtime. They did win 3 games in overtime, but they won those games. So, I think we probably will expect to talk about them on a regular basis this season. Moving on to the number 1 team in this division this week, probably by some tiebreaker, maybe goals against. They had less goals against. Don't really know what it is, but another 7-1-1 week. The Columbus Blue Jackets, who are under new ownership this season. They brought in Dom Squad as the GM over here. Nick X90, or as the AGM. Nick X98 takes ownership. Brings Chris Tastic 91 as his GM, and their team has already won almost as many games as they did all of last season. They brought 0033 in net, who as a rookie last season was up there, I think either second or third in the Vezina debate, which was, you were fighting for whatever was behind Kearns at that point. But he went 4-1-1 on the week. They brought Gilly in this weekend, I think today maybe, to play right wing. They have Horton X93, who went 3-0 on the week. Entry went 3-0 on the week. One of their, I think, 13th overall in the draft, Jay Felice 5, went 3-0 on the week. They brought in Ovechkin Jr. They have Perfect Skills QC, who they just brought in from, I think, Boston. Vikes on right D went 3-0 this week. He's a solid defenseman. And then, of course, they went out, and their big money guy was Woy, who went 3-0 at center for him this week, making the change from defense to center finally, and went 3-0. He had 10 points, 4 goals, 6 assists. Lots of guys 3-0 on this team this week. Vito Corleone in his second season was a draft pick last season. And Columbus looks to be, I guess, just a completely different team than they were a season ago.
What a difference a season makes. It's pretty amazing sometimes. You had the Calgary Flames who did it last season. It's wow. They've done a good job with this team. Nick finally gets his own team and moves out from under the shadow of the Montreal Canadiens, and had put together a hell of a week. His team goes 7-1-1 now. We'll see what happens with this team as last season. And I mean, not that I'm comparing anything here, but I believe the Montreal Canadiens came out last season and went 8-1 in week 1, somewhere around there, something like that. So we'll see if Columbus can sustain, which I think that they can. They've got a lot of outstanding players on this team. But there's also a lot of guys that I was like, whoa, holy cow, they're stepping it up. So, maybe this is a team that's going to catch people off guard all season. You never know. But when you got goaltenders like 0-0, you're going to win games. He's going to steal games single-handedly for you, and that's not to put down the rest of the team. As Vito Corleone goes out, has himself a good week. Vikes, Entry, Nick, goes 1-1-1 on the week. But, Chris Tastic, 91 left D for him, comes in the GM this season and goes 3-0 this week. Dom Squad, the assistant captain, goes 3-0 this week. Akon, Bartlett, Gilly, Horton goes 3-0. Entry goes 3-0. Jay Felice, who is a top draft pick of the Montreal Canadiens, gets sent over to Columbus, I believe, as a compensation payment. So, this is a team that's kind of gotten, and then you have, of course, Woy going to center I got it right, didn't I? Did I get it right? Woy? It's not Woy.
Yeah.
But
it's not YY.
It's not YY.
Yeah.
You got Woy going up the center this season and turning in a solid performance for them as well. So, this is a pretty damn good team, if you ask me. It's definitely a complete 180 from last season. And, look for this team to, we'll see if they can continue this success. And like I said, when you got players like Woy, Jay Felice, a lot of these guys, Nick, Vikes having himself a good season, and you got a goaltender like 0-0. And, you're going to be set up for some pretty good success, not to be outdone by Champion. I believe that's supposed to be Champion. Is that right? Or Champion, the other goalie who went 3-0 for him this week. So, they're getting great goaltending right now. Their team seems to be well-rounded, and they go 7-1-1 on the week.
I believe that's Chapman.
Chapman? Is that what it is?
Which maybe he's Dwayne Chapman, which would be Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah. Denver, Colorado.
I don't know if they have Dog the Bounty Hunter on their team, and it's done. That's it.
Bounty Gate season 5.
Yeah, no kidding. So, I think that everything you look at statistically for the Blue Jackets is pointing up. 7-1-1 on the week, 1 OT loss, 15 points sitting at the top of their division. Also in a 3-way tie for the top of the conference. Also in a 3-way tie for most points in the league after 1 week. Their goal differential is a +14, 30 goals for, 16 goals against. The 16 goals against is less than 2 goal a game average, which is outstanding. Foot Moran always struggles with the names. That's not new. I think that this team has done everything that they can to start the season, building their team, putting it together, getting ready to go, and then going out and doing it through 1 week. But, they're going to be fighting with the Devils and the Flyers for the top of this division, and possibly the Capitals, the Penguins, the Islanders. Who knows? We'll see how it goes, but definitely solid coming out of the gates here for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Definitely looking up from last season. So good job by the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, let's go ahead and move on because it's almost time to get the hell out of here to this week's Power Rankings.
Yep, moving on to the power rankings. Sorry I didn't have the music cued because I'm looking at some other stuff here, so that's my bad.
So let's move on here. We're going to move on to this week's power rankings. And we'll just cut out the first part of that, and it'll seamlessly go right through as expected. But moving on here to the goalies, I'll start it off. That was pretty quiet, actually.
Got it turned on.
I'll start it off here with the goaltenders. We will start with Broadway CJ97. He went 1-1 on the week. 16 saves in those 2 games, a 1 goals against average, 88.9 save percentage, and 1 shutout. What's interesting is every goalie except for 1 on this list had at least a shutout this week. That's interesting to me. Coming in at the number 2 spot here for the Minnesota Wild is Schmucht, who went 3-1 on the week with a 1.5 goals against and an 84.6 save percentage with 1 shutout. Number 8, Pages Red, returning to the New York Rangers, going 2-0 on the week with a 2.0 goals against and an 84.6 save percentage, also with a shutout. Belaya 31 went 3-0 on the week with a 1.34 goals against an 83.3 save percentage and also a shutout for the Tampa Bay Lightning. In the number 6 spot, Winston Payne, an Xbox goaltender, coming over to the Vancouver Canucks, going 4-0 with a 1.5 goals against, 87.5 save percentage, and he was the only goaltender on this list without a shutout. RIP. In the number 5 spot, we have San Jose 1 for the Edmonton Oilers, who went 4-0 on the week as well. He had a 1.09 goals against, an 88.9 save percentage, and also 2 big shutouts for the Edmonton Oilers. Another Xbox goaltender coming over is Smitty, playing for the Winnipeg Jets in the number 4 spot here. 3-0 on the week, a 1.33 goals against, a 90.2 save percentage, and 1 shutout. And then here in the number 3 spot, and Smitty in the 4 spot was also the league's 3rd star. In the 3 spot, the league's 2nd star here is Chapman, going 3-0 for the Columbus Blue Jackets, a 1.01 goals against average and an 89.7 save percentage with a shutout. In the number 2 spot is Vezina for the Ottawa Senators, going 2-0 on the week, a 0.5 goals against average, a 93.3 save percentage, and 1 shutout. And then the league's number 1 star and my number 1 star on the week is the $3.5 million RFA goaltender himself, the one and only. He went 6-0 on the week, the only goaltender to do so, won every one of his 6 games in a division week play, I might add, for the defending Western Conference champion Calgary Flames, picking up 62 saves, a 1.17 goals against, an 89.9 save percentage with 2 shutouts, and that is in 6 games. So in 6 games, he's a 0.1% away from a 90% save percentage, and he's got a 1.17 goals against average. That's an incredible week by the one and only. Congratulations. He is our LG Hockey Hotline 1st star of the week for goaltenders. Moran, go ahead and bring in the defenseman.
Well, moving on to the defensemen, there's a lot of familiar names on this list from seasons past and seasons current. Starting in the number 20 spot is Jay Cool, who plays for the Montreal Canadiens, goes 3-0 on the week with 3 points. In the 19th spot is Downey, going 2-1 on the week with 6 points, one of which was a goal and a +6. In the 18th spot for the Calgary Flames, continuous cycle. In the 17th spot, the Wall, 6-6-8-7, going 3-0 on the week for Vancouver. In the 16th spot is Chris Tastic, 91 for those Columbus Blue Jackets that we had just spoken about, going 3-0 on the week with 4 points. In the 15th spot is Foot for the New Jersey Devils, going 3-0, picking up a couple of points and a +3 on the week. In the 14th spot is a shutdown defender for those Philadelphia Flyers and possibly the best player on that team coming from the back end, and Fuchs, who went 2-1 on the week this week, picking up 6 points, 2 of which were goals, and a +6 on the week. In the 13th spot, is Dazi from those Calgary Flames, as you're going to see a lot of those on this list this week. Going 2-0 on the week, picking up a couple of points and a +7. In the 12th spot for those Calgary Flames again is ML Jesus. Yeah. Going 3-0 on the week with a couple of points and a +6. In the 11th spot, another Calgary Flame, Red Mile 89, going 3-0 on the week with 3 points +7. Rounding out the top 10 here, we have Schroyer69, the owner of the Boston Bruins, going 3-0 this week, picking up 3 points and a +5. In the number 9 spot is Full Throttle for those Ottawa Senators, going 3-0 with 5 points. In the number 8 spot is Stay at Home D, going 3-0 with 4 points and a +5. And then in the number 7 spot is Skills Pay Bills for the Buffalo Sabres, going 3-0 this season in his first week, which is a complete 180 from last year. But as we all know, he killed it the rest of the season. So Skills Pays Bills goes in the 7th spot, 3-0 this week. In the number 6 spot is Trio Big Mac for the defending Stanley Cup champion New Jersey Devils, going 3-0, picking up 3 points, 2 goals, and a +5 on the week. In the 5 spot is the Columbus Blue Jackets defender Entry, going 3-0 on the week with 3 points, 1 goal, and a +6. In the 4 spot is Vikes for those same Columbus Blue Jackets, going 3-0 on the week, picking up 3 points +4 with 1 goal. Rounding out your top 3 is Official Mark, who has made the change over to the Buffalo Sabres this season, going in the number 3 spot with the 3-0 record, 4 points. And there's his D partner from last season, proving that they can do it together on different teams and still make the top 3 for defenders, is Odie in the number 2 spot for the New Jersey Devils, going 3-0 on the week with 7 points, 2 goals, +1. And then sitting in the number 1 spot for LG is a familiar face, but on a different position and a different team. A little bit strange to see King Clutch playing for the Ottawa Senators and going 3-0 on the season with 6 points, on the week, 6 points, a couple of goals, and a +5. This one's a little bit tough for me, but I'm going to have to go with Odie from the New Jersey Devils, simply because of the point total and having 7 points, which was most out of any defender on this list this season. So the LG Hockey Hotline top defender of the week goes to Odie from the New Jersey Devils.
And congratulations to Odie on getting that. Let's move on here to the forwards. We have another guy in a new place who was GM last season, Rico, TCX7, moved to the San Jose Sharks this season, goes 3-0 in his first week with the Sharks, picking up 8 points, 4 goals, and a +9. Man, if he picks up 8 4s in 3 games, man. In the number 19 spot, we have Kadri going 3-0 for the Vancouver Canucks, 7 points, 6 of those were goals, and a +2. In the number 18 spot, we got VSERP going 2-0-1 with 13 points, picking up 4 goals and a +9. Spent most of the week distributing, I guess, with only 4 goals there. I'm going to have to assume he was also playing defense, trying to get that Selke 13 going this season again, for the second season in a row, if you ask him. In the number 17 spot, you got Extendo 28 on one of the best contracts in the league. He's at $750, I believe. He was re-signed by Chicago. Has been a very solid player for them the last season. And now a week, he went 2-1 with 10 points, 7 goals on the week. And then in the number 16 spot, you got Tendy for the New Jersey Devils, going 3-0, 9 points, 4 goals, +3. In the 15 spot, you got Flap Snake going 3-0 with 10 points and 5 goals. In the number 14 spot, you got Snipe Shot 21 for the Vancouver Canucks, picking up 2 dubs, getting 7 points, 5 goals. In the number 13 spot, DTA Today. Lost my spot here. DTA Today going 3-0 for the New Jersey Devils, 10 points, 3 goals, +5. And then I think, interesting, the only minus on the list at the number 12 spot, Riz for the Buffalo Sabres, going 2-0-1 with 12 points, picking up 5 goals, and he was a -1, which is interesting, but 4 points a game. 12 points, and still managed to be a -1. Then in the number 11 spot, Ottawa's top draft pick at the number 3 spot, Who Are You? Going 3-0 with 8 points, 6 goals, +8. In the number 10 spot, Big Freeze, going 2-0, 7 points, 2 goals. And then At the number 9 spot, Carlson MVP with 15 points. No, I'm just kidding. 9 points, 6 goals, 3 assists, and a +5. Played center and left wing this week for those Pittsburgh Penguins. In the number 8 spot, two-way hockey from the Minnesota Wild, going 3-0 on the week with 11 points, 5 goals, and a +4, playing right wing. At number 7, we have Woy going 3-0 with 10 points, 4 goals, and a +6 for those red-hot, league-leading Columbus Blue Jackets. In the number 6 spot, we have Ray Aucoin going 3-0 with 9 points and 7 goals for the Anaheim Ducks. In the number 5 spot, Terry Torr goes 3-0 with 11 points, 5 goals, and a +9. And then old teammate of ours in the number 4 spot, picking up the league's 3rd star, would be Kraz18, going 3-0 with 11 points, 5 goals, and a +8. In the number 3 spot with the league's 2nd stars, Rick Chell 98 went 3-0 on the week for Philadelphia, picking up 11 points, 8 goals, and a +6, playing both wing positions. In the number 2 spot with the league's 1st star, going 3-0 on the week, is Big J Aote, the owner of the defending Western Conference champion Calgary Flames, 11 points, 6 goals, and a +7. And in the number 1 position for the Colorado Avalanche, Litz McLovin, going 2-0, 10 points, 6 goals, and a +6, picking up 5 points a game. For me this week, I am going to have to go with Kraz18 as the league's 1st star, picking up the 3 wins with the 11 points there. And the determining factor to me was that he had the +8. He had the higher plus total of those guys. Playing right wing there is between him and Terry Torr for me.
I gotta give a shout out to McLovin, man. 2 games, 10 points, +6. That a boy.
So that does it for our power rankings and our 3 stars of the week for LG Hockey Hotline. You want to be talked about next week? Get your ass on this list. I plan on being talked about 0. So, yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps that up. What else do we need to get to before we go play some games?
I think that's about it, honestly. I'm tired.
Well, hey, I didn't make the contract duds list this week. It's my first chance to do it, and I didn't do it. Yeah, I think looking here again, we have also that takeaways plus points minus giveaways stat. Manship 91 for the Calgary Flames was number 1 this week on that stat. That is, as explained by Triz, to be because the takeaway giveaways is kind of broken. It's how many points did you get with the takeaways to add how much you did for your team. So he was a +7 in that stat. And what's interesting is the guys on this list, I'm looking at it, and a lot of them, 10, like Manship himself, 10 takeaways minus 6 giveaways. He was a +4 in the giveaway to takeaway. So was A Convict for the Columbus Blue Jackets, 8 takeaways, 4 giveaways. That's an outstanding job by guys who can finish a week in the plus on takeaway to giveaway ratio, especially with it being broken. So congratulations to everybody who made this list. And, we look to talk about you again next week. Hopefully there's some new names on here.
Yeah, for sure. Week 1 in the books here. Believe it or not, we're rolling right into season 5. Season 2 coming up tomorrow night, and just under 24 hours from now, we will be starting in on week 2 in season 5.
Yep. Well, I think that's about it for me. I think we've overstayed our welcome here on the LG Hockey Hotline for the week. We will see you guys again next Saturday night, 9 o'clock Eastern, and we will talk about everything that was week 2 of season 5 on the PlayStation side.
Enjoy the weekend, boys.